All right.
Madness.
Back
Yeah.
in the saddle.
Running a little bit late today, but you know what we always say? We're exactly where we're supposed to
Exactly.
be, exactly where God wants us to be. So sometimes it's like we're running late and we're all frustrated. We're like maybe running late 5 minutes and then we pass by an accident that happened 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. And you know,
So-
that's a lesson I gotta learn too, cause man, I always like when I stay on a mission and I want to get accomplished, and things get thrown in my pathway and block me and all that. I say I'm trying to get there, but all this,
Yeah.
and then I realized that there's a reason why that path was blocked for that purpose.
Yeah.
So we look at the wider scheme of things. I can get that, but I still get stressed. I still gotta.
Help? Okay, so I have a question.
Uh-oh.
So I want to start with Oh wait, first of all,
There
you
we
guys saw our last vlog or two.
go. One for you, I love you.
He's already like way ahead of me.
Yeah.
You know, he just done cheated at 4 in the
Bro,
morning.
I got all the fours this morning.
Whatever. I was
All
like
of it.
so
All of it.
tired.
All of it.
But if you've seen our last vlog, he ordered an ICO cup.
Yep.
Right? and
I have it.
I said,
I am the proud
Here.
owner of my very own ICO cup.
I told him you're gonna walk
It's a
around.
tumbler, yeah. It's a.
Yeah, it's like a
Hey, so the thing
stainless steel
is,
tumbler.
I was trying to look up if it can hot and cold.
I think
Well,
it could, because I had one with that clear cover like that before.
Yeah.
I think it could.
Seems like it seals really good.
Yeah. How was it when you had the cold yesterday?
That's good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think I don't know. I think I remember that it said you could, but it didn't
The
work
very first
well.
drink I had inside there was one
and a half.
12 ounce and 2 ounces of the other can of Coca-Cola.
What
Ain't
did it
nothing
say
like
on
the real
can?
thing.
What did it say on the can?
Partner. Yeah, 2 of them partners. I only had 2 cans. The other
Yeah.
ones was 6 or something.
Yeah.
So 843, honey bun, love you.
So
403, love
Bruh.
you.
So
Yeah.
he has his cup. He's all
Yes.
proud, and it has like ingredients.
Because I'm
on
your
the cup,
biggest
too.
fan. There's not a fan out there in the world.
I can agree with that.
Bigger than me.
You are.
I'm your biggest fan.
Yeah. Okay. So the question I have is,
It doesn't matter what the question is.
what are moments in your life
Yeah.
that have made you who you are today? What are significant moments? I mean, I know everything, you know, but
Right.
what are significant moments you think?
Then I would have to point to two things.
Okay.
I like focus on just 2 things that one what the world would consider negative
Okay.
and one what the world would consider positive. And the reason why I say it that way, because I'm a believer, I'm a strong believer in paradoxes.
Hmm.
Everything is a paradox, right? What you might think is, hey,
That looks like the one that it was
there's
on
a
the
thing.
island.
What's up on his name?
Jonah. Is that him?
Oh no, that's Wahine
Oh,
driving.
Deb.
Yeah. What some people might think is bad may actually be good.
Right.
What you may think is good may actually be bad. Like for example, right? McDonald's hamburgers, right?
Okay.
And I learned this when I was in economics class in the college class I took in Halaba, right?
Okay.
They talk about the diminishing returns, right? So you eat a McDonald's hamburger. You never had a McDonald's hamburger in your life, and then you eat one and you go, "Oh, boy, this is the baddest thing, bro." And the thing is good, right? Tastes great. First time in your life you ever eat that, you're like, "Yeah, I'll eat some more of that."
Okay.
Yeah. By the time you get to like the 5th and 6th one, you're gonna be like, it's alright.
See, that's why I think
Right.
about when you eat my hamburger steak and everything.
Yeah,
so
but I
which
still never
one?
the returns still never diminish it. Yeah, so you cannot go there. Anyway, because I'm loyal. Okay, but anyway, so that's called the principle of diminishing returns.
Okay,
Right. It starts off great
right,
and then it'll go down.
right.
Right. And so paradoxes work something like that. Right.
Okay.
In the sense that, you know, if you think it's great right now, but in the long scheme of things, it can be bad for you. Why? Because you eat too much hamburgers. You eat McDonald's burgers every day. You know, you're gonna get fat. 4432, I go love
Bruh.
you, ma. You're gonna get fat.
Uh-huh.
You're gonna have some health issues
Right.
regarding that, right? So, like so in my life, getting to the issue of paradoxes. Let's say, for example, like when one of the major ones that stand out from when I was a very small kid, before I even got into criminality and all that, I was living life under a strict disciplinarian.
Mm,
You know, my mom had a very heavy hand.
right.
And I love her, right? So I'm not criticizing her. She just only could deal with me the way she had. There was
Right.
no, you know, parenting classes
Right.
to deal with. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So she beat the fuck out of me on a regular basis, right?
Don't beat around the bush. Just say it.
You know, she beat the fuck out of me. But you know what I appreciate about that?
What?
Because the tough upbringing that I had from her allowed me to survive in prison. By the time I got to prison, 943, Leslie, love you. 14943, Aiko, Leslie, love you. Yeah, I smashed you today on all the numbers. But that allowed me to survive prison, bro.
Right.
To survive my life on the streets, to survive detention home, boys home, jail, prison. It allowed me to survive. And that's what I needed to get to this place I am today.
That's the skills you needed.
That's the skill set that I have today. And today, I have a fighting mentality and a survival mentality because of that.
Right.
Now, what about the other side, right? So, people look at that as bad, but
But
the
it saved your
paradox
life.
of that saved my life,
Yeah.
right? How many times I should have been dead?
Yeah.
You know, when I got mobbed by cops, 4, 5, 8 cops in a fucking alleyway, how many times? Well, I survived that shit, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? Now, let's get to the other side, the flip side to that.
Okay.
What I appreciate today is about the love that I get from you, right? The love, the empathy, understanding what true empathy really is.
Aw.
And true empathy, I had, you know, past relationships say, oh yeah, I'm an empath, I'm an empath, I'm an empath. It's just a cute phrase that sometimes women would like to say to, you know, put a softer touch on them. But in reality, when shit hit the fucking fan, you know,
Empath goes out the
empath
window.
goes, what happened to the empath? You know what I mean? But with you, there is a true feeling of love, deep love, care, respect, and empathy for me, not just me who I am today, but all the way where I came back. And how I know that is when they was doing a documentary on my life, you paid attention to everything that was shared because you were sitting there while I was getting interviewed, and you got questions formulated in your mind.
Yeah.
And then what did you do? You didn't go to the kakio and you peel off the scab.
I don't know what you're talking
You
about.
wanted to know
I
how come
see,
that?
like, lights
How
up
come
there.
like that? Huh?
I see some kind of emergency lights or
Yeah.
something. I don't know.
Well, up in the back.
Oh, over here.
You know. So that to me, that is good.
Yeah.
Right. That is good. The downside to that, looking at it, on the flip side and the paradox, is that it leaves me vulnerable to you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Which means now that I gotta have a healthy dose of trust in you, that you're not going to use that when you see my vulnerability, and you're going to use them against
I
me.
think it's not just me too. It's everything I come with.
Yeah.
It's me and everything I come with.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But what I'm saying is that, I've been guarded all my life.
Yeah.
Big giant walls, brick walls all the way around me.
Yeah.
And that's my tool right there. That make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I see it. I can see it in our relationship, and I think sometimes that gets in the way of us solving things quicker, maybe.
Right.
Because I have to wait for you to put your guard down.
Yeah.
I have to wait for you to
You gotta-
process what's going
You
on.
know what I mean? Because I stay humble. And I get all that doo in my diaper. I wait till I wipe my ass and change the diaper. But sometimes I can really be a doodle boy.
Sometimes it's loaded. But yeah. Okay, so that's interesting though. Yours is like, so one is like really bad that turned out really good, and one is really good that
Like,
not turns out really bad, but
Yeah.
it's like opposite. So it's like yin and yang,
Right.
like how our life is.
Like our relation, yin and yang.
But okay, so for mine, I think the first thing that changed my life. So I don't want to, just in case, somebody is watching, but you know what I'm talking about. No, it's not, but you know who I'm talking about. But there was something sexual that happened to me when I was little, and that experience.
At some point, you have to live your truth.
I'm.
Person want to accept it or not.
Yeah, that's like a whole nother can of worms. But that experience, I think, made me stronger. Because a lot of times when people get, and it like, even when people get raped or that kind of experience, it makes them go down the wrong path, and it makes them, dark, I guess.
Right.
But for me, it made me stronger, and it's weird because I think about what hurt this person so much to make him like that.
Do that.
And it's weird because it goes back to the empath thing, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I think first that made me stronger, and that ended when I was 10. Right, so I was little still, and then and it made me stronger because when I was a teenager, there were a few attempts from guys, and I put myself in those situations, like
You clear
I didn't, but I can, so hopefully it stays. But like I said, I put myself in those situations where I was in a place I shouldn't have been, like going to Blaisdell Park at like midnight. You know what I mean? And I went with my friend, of course. She ended up going off with a guy she liked, and there was another guy there, so I was stuck talking to this guy. And I was like, after a while, I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm going home. I'm not waiting for you here with this strange guy that I don't know. So I started going home, and I went to use the bathroom, and he came into the bathroom,
What is your love?
and he tried to rape me in the bathroom. And
Hey.
I
Flashback.
fought back, and I
Flashback.
kicked him in the balls.
Yeah.
And I think I grabbed his face and pushed his face up against the the wall.
Yeah.
And I just was like, fuck you, you know, you're not doing this to me. And I walked away, and he was like, oh, you bitch, you know, this and that and this and that. I'm like, whatever. I get kicked in the balls again, come at me. I mean, it was natural for me. Like, I was ready at that point. Like, you know what? I wish you would.
Okay, so at that point, you know when that thing happened to you when you was 10? At some point, as you processing that until that time that when that one happened,
Right.
did you ever get a sense where you said to yourself, fuck that, but nobody will ever fucking do that shit to me again? Anybody fucking do that to me, but you know, I'm gonna be ready.
I think it was when I
So
realized.
did you have that?
Yeah. It was that moment
I
that.
wanted to share that because what I was talking about with my mom,
Yeah.
I know when that point, I was at Kaiwa Elementary School, the first time I ever ran away from home, and I said to myself then, of course, I ended up walking back home because I was hungry, I had no place to go, I was cold, I
Yeah.
was mad, right? But so, I remember consciously saying to myself, I will never let anybody fucking do that to me ever again. You know what I mean? And so that's why, to this day, my mom is the only person I ever loved and feared.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because and after that, you know, I'm not gonna feel no man.
Yeah.
Fuck that. If I gotta die, I gotta die. Fuck them.
So I did have that moment, and it was when everything came out, you know, and from that moment on, I was like, okay, that's not ever happening to me again,
Right.
you know.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's why I kind of like,
Right.
okay, I'm not gonna, you know, like you like two wrongs don't make a right kind of
Right.
thing. So I wasn't about to follow the path that this person was on, right?
Right.
I was like, no, I'm gonna take the higher road, and you just made me a better person because now I'm stronger.
Right.
You know, nobody's gonna take advantage of me like that.
Right.
And there was a couple of boyfriends too that, you know, I mean, I don't know.
They think just because they're the boyfriend.
Yeah, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, we were in a car one time at Tantalus, and I was with my boyfriend, and, you know, I mean, okay, we were kissing and stuff, but then he just jumps on top of me in the car, you know, and starts trying to have sex with me, and I was like, okay, no, you know, what are you doing? And I was still a virgin that time, right? And I was like, no. And he goes, oh, come on, you know you want it, you know you want it. And so he was on top of me, and he had the seat
Well, it
down.
looked like you want it.
Right. So I was like, get the fuck off of me, right? And I was resisting, and then finally I was just pissed off. So I grabbed him by the neck and I pushed him back to his seat. And he was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You know, this and that. I said, just because I'm kissing you doesn't mean I want to fuck you. You know what I mean? And so I was like really
It ain't
irritated.
that time.
Yeah, and then he threatened to leave me there, and I was like, go ahead. You know, do whatever. You're not going to hold that up, you know,
Yeah,
against
yeah.
me. Like, oh, please
Like,
don't leave
like that's
me.
a thing.
Yeah, like I was at Tantalus, you know, and I didn't know how I would get home. But I was like, go ahead, I don't give a shit. And he was
Right.
like, you know what, I'm taking you home. Like, that's great. And then when I got out of the car, I said, by the way, you know you're not my boyfriend anymore, right? He goes, what the fuck are you talking about? And I said, no,
I know what
I'm
guy
done.
you are.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm done. You know what I mean? Because the next time I will throat punch you, you know, something will happen. So I'm like, no, I'm done. But that was a moment. And then I think my next moment was when my son was born. Or actually when I found out he was going to be born with a heart condition. Because that made me stronger. Before that, I was a really timid girl.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I was strong when I needed to be, but other than those situations, I was really a timid person. I never like spoke with assertion, you know, and stuff like that.
Right.
I was really like sweet, nice. Everybody came to me with their problems, you know.
Yeah.
And then when I found out my son was going to be born with a heart condition, the social worker came to the hospital and was like, oh, you know, here's a bunch of pamphlets. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I threw the pamphlets in the bag, and I'm like, my baby might be dead inside of my stomach, you know?
Right.
Like, I don't want to see a bunch of pamphlets. And my focus was just to, you know, have my baby survive. But then when it was time to go to before he went to his first open heart surgery at 6 months old. So during that time, by the time I got home and we got settled with a doctor and stuff, I was looking for those brochures and I'm like,
Yeah.
where the hell did it go? And the social worker didn't follow up with me. So, I was lost. So I called everything in the phone book because, back in those days we had phone books, right?
Phone books?
Now
Who has
there's no phone books. But, back in the days, they had phone books. And so I called everything that had the word heart in it. Heart association, heart this, heart that. And I was like, okay, look, I thought my baby was the only one on the island that was going to be born with this because I didn't know anybody else.
Frankly.
And so that's the one that's usually on this side.
Yeah.
So I called and I tried to get resources, and stuff. And I found a couple, but it wasn't what I needed. And it wasn't until we went to San Diego that the lady at the surgeon's office, she was the one that said, hey, there's a support group in Hawaii, right? And I'm like, what? And then we had a family there that took us under their wing, and so that was really helpful. But my son being born with that made me a stronger person because I had to advocate for him. Although we had great nurses and doctors, they don't have the time or they don't know your child enough. So as a parent, I had to step in, and I had to be like second nurse, second doctors, mom, everything, right? And so that made me a strong person. And that made me that moment where I said, I know what I went through. And I went to San Diego not even knowing that we had support. I vowed never to let a family go through what I went through.
Right.
That we were always going to offer support and make sure the doctors were the ones that told them right away, not go see a social worker. I mean, you can see a social worker, but,
Right.
that there is a group out there. And so to this day, all the doctor's offices for pediatric cardiology, they have brochures or they have information. The doctor has personal information. It's call this person,
Right.
they're from Cardiac Kids or whatever. And so that was another moment. And I think my last moment was when I left my marriage. Because, I thought when I was in high school and when I was growing up, I thought, I'm gonna get a job as soon as I can. I'm gonna save money. I'm gonna live on my own when I'm 18. I'm gonna buy my own car. I'm gonna get married. I'm gonna have kids. The whole
Right.
white picket fence theory. And I'm only gonna marry one man forever. That's it, right?
Ever and ever.
And in Japanese culture, it's kind of like that too, right? Like you marry, that's it. Right. And so when I decided to leave my marriage, I had to dig deep and I had to come to peace with a lot of things. And it wasn't anything that my ex-husband
Right.
it wasn't bad things. It's just we grew apart, in my eyes. We grew apart. And because I had kids, I had to really dig deep.
By the way, did you open up the bottom gate? The first gate?
I don't know. Because nobody said they were coming.
Oh.
So, yeah, but that was another moment for me because that was the first time that I had to be on my own like that, right? Because when I moved into my first apartment, I was already with him, and so I've always been with somebody. And so when I moved into the place that we're living in now,
Right.
and that was my leap of faith, going out on my own. And and I was really proud of myself.
Yeah.
I could live there and I was fine, and people kept checking
People was
on
tripping
me.
out like,
Yeah.
you moving to Waianae?
And by myself,
Yeah.
and people were like, are you okay? Do you need anything? I'm like, no, I'm good. I walked into Murrah's and go buy what I needed to eat, and stuff like that. What's going on?
So,
Oh.
what?
Yeah, so
Maybe.
I'm watching like going like this too
Yeah,
in the cars, but yeah, that was my moment, and there was a moment there for me that said, if I'm gonna make this decision, you know, I can't go back. You know what I mean? Like once I make this decision, I have to be strong, and I have to just figure it out. You know, to just figure it out in life, what I'm gonna do,
Right.
how I'm gonna take care of myself. You know, and I did. I was independent for a little while, even while I was still living in the White Kelly house.
Right.
You know, I didn't ask for anything. I walked to the store for myself. I didn't ask for rides. You know, if he would offer, you know, and or insist, then I would take it. But other than that, I was independent. And then when I moved into the apartment, like I said, I was like totally independent. You know, until you came, until you came home.
What?
You know, and I had to do all that by myself. I had to juggle, you know, all of that. Plus, I was still raising money to get money for your books
Right.
and all that. So I still had to juggle that. And now I was on my own with no car, no bus pass, nothing, out in Waianae. You know. So yeah, those were. It's you don't think about it. You know what moments in your life made you who you are
Yeah.
today. But I'm a completely different person than I ever thought I would be. I'm way more independent, way more strong. You know, if you had asked me this when I was maybe 15, there's no way that I would have thought my life would be where it is right now, and that I would have the strength to get through stuff. So yeah, but we're pulling up at work now.
Mm-hmm.
We got a setup. We got hamburger steak burgers
Hamburger steak burger.
and crinkle cut fries.
Yes, sir.
Spam musubis and cookies.
I saw that thing on the ground.
So these cookie peoples better show up, man. All right.
Love, peace, and happiness, y'all. We out of here.